Sorry, we were just talking about.
We will begin the logon process.
Recording in progress.
The meeting of the Committee on Strategic Planning and Budget of the Board of School Directors will please come to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Director Carr. Director Garcia.
Present.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Present.
Director Herndon.
Present.
Director Leonard.
Present.
Director Peterson.
Present.
Director Simpson.
Present.
Director Taylor.
In attendance.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Present.
We have 8 members present.
I will now ask the Secretary to lead us in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Members, please mute your devices.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we begin tonight's meeting, we have a short announcement regarding the interpretation services for the Spanish-speaking members of our audience.
Bienvenidos. Esta junta se transmitirá en español para aquellas personas que lo necesiten. Si desea escuchar esta junta en español, por favor, marque el teléfono 312-626-6799 y ponga el número de la junta 608-130-5362. Repito, para acceder a esta junta en español, marque el teléfono 312-626-6799 y ponga el número de la junta 608-130-5362. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. Due to the contingencies of the COVID-19 public health pandemic, MPS buildings are closed to the public, and this meeting is being conducted virtually. Board members may be participating from the Central Services Building. In order to allow as much public participation as possible, this meeting is being broadcast on radio station WYMS 88.9 FM via live stream on the MPS website and on the MPS YouTube stream, the links to which may be found on the MPS website on the broadcast page. We will now move to our items of business. As stated in the public notice, individuals who wish to speak were required to register in advance. I ask those waiting to speak to please remain on the platform until you are called upon. Although we are on a virtual platform, we will still follow Robert's Rules of Order, which dictates that all comments should be directed to the chair. Also, any questions or requests, including those from board members or the administration, are to be directed toward the chair, who will determine the most efficient way to address them. As always, written testimony will be accepted for transmittal to the board. Written comments may be submitted to the board via the Office of Board Governance, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201-2181, or fax to 414-475-8071, or email it to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Finally, for our listening audience, if you wish to access this evening's agenda items and attachments online, you may do so by visiting esb.milwaukee.k12.wi.us. Now let's begin. Madam Secretary, item 1.
Item 1 is informational overview and public hearing on the 2021-22 superintendent's proposed budget. This is an informational item and no action is required.
Will the administration please present the item?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, the administration is prepared and ready to take any information from our community that is available. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, before we ask board members to comment on item 1, do we have any public comment on this item?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have 4 individuals.
Weir and Wait are in.
I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry, Madam Chair. I thought technology was giving us some information. We do have 4 individuals on the platform prepared to speak on this item.
Let's proceed to testimony then, please.
Okay, if we can start the timer. Okay, the first speaker that we have on the platform is Elise Che. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Okay, it looks like that speaker is not on the platform. The next speaker that we have is Lucas Weir. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Lucas Weir, W-I-E-R-E-R.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee. I want to be very brief tonight and simply remind the committee that there are a number of high schools in MPS that are really struggling and need special consideration in this budget. There are also a number of high schools in MPS that are considered among the best in the state. That said, I would pose the question, how good is a school that will not accept and educate all students? What I'm asking for tonight from this committee is what the district has promised time and time again, which is to use an equity lens in everything we do. Before you approve any budget, please ask yourself, how does this budget reflect the district's commitment to equity, specifically for those students who attend our traditional non-select criteria public schools? I want to continue to lift the demands of Leaders Igniting Transformation and also plead for the continued expansion of the Black and Latino Male Achievement Department. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker on the platform is Dawn Wait. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
My name is Dawn.
Hello. If the speaker could, it looks like the mic may have been muted. If the speaker could, we can start over to make sure that the speaker gets their full time. Dawn?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay,
thank you
great.
so much. Hello? It looks like we may have lost sound once again. If we could give the speaker a moment. Hello, Dawn?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Dawn, it appears that after the initial voice, we cannot hear you.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, hello.
Hi, Dawn? Madam Chair, we will continue to work with the speaker if that's okay. I'm just speaking to make sure that we don't have dead air.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Hello, Dawn? It sounds as if your sound is going in and out. Can we ask if Dawn can remain on the platform and then move on to the next speaker and come right back to Dawn? Is that okay?
It's fine with me, Dr. Mann.
Thank you so much. Dawn, please remain on the platform. We will come right back to you. We will go to the next speaker on the platform. And we had Amy Mizialko registered to speak on this item. Is Amy on the platform? It looks as if Dawn is the last speaker on the platform, so we will go back to Dawn to speak on this item.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, can you?
Oh my gosh.
It sounds as if we can hear you for like the first 5 seconds, and then the microphone goes, it's muted.
And I so wanted to speak to you guys today too.
And we can hear you. Okay. So, Dawn, I'm going to ask that you continue to talk to us and
Madam Secretary, would it be possible, perhaps, I believe that Ms. Waite would be the last speaker registered for this evening's testimony portion. So would it be possible to move to committee members? And if Ms. Waite can get it working, then we can have her chime back in.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Okay. By a show of hands, or I can go by the alphabetical list. Do any committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Oh, I don't see anybody's hands raised. I do have 2 questions while we're still working, trying to get Ms. Waite to connect. One is not necessarily related to the budget per se, but it might be related to the budget. A sophomore parent, a rising sophomore parent, contacted me today to see if we could do some sort of sophomore bridge in the way that we do a freshman bridge, given that many of our sophomores will be stepping foot in their building for the first time this fall. And I was wondering perhaps this could be a discussion for later with reopening, but I just wanted to know if that could be a consideration that administration would be open to, and if so, if we need to allocate any budget for that. So I'll direct that to administration.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Is that information that you are requesting that the administration forward to the board members prior to the full board meeting, or is there a budgetary component to this that you'd like to hear about tonight?
It's really doesn't have to be a discussion point for this evening, but if there were any budget discussions that needed to take place in order to facilitate this, I know that one of the schools is already considering this, but if other schools need budget, I was just wondering if that could be information either provided to us before the full board and we can discuss it at that point, or if at this point we had enough to go on to understand those budgetary needs.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
members of the committee, would it be helpful to understand if there are any funds set aside for freshman bridge for next school year?
That would be so helpful. Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, I will share with you that we do have money that is currently set aside for Fresh Person Bridge and those programs. Also, the idea that I received the same phone call today as well, and have talked through that, and I'm going to be working with Dr. John Hill about what it looks like for sophomores as well. Some schools are already have set aside things for sophomores, and we are all aware with this past school year what needs to happen around that particular piece. And if there's not enough money that is earmarked for that, we will be looking at ESSER 3 for those dollars as well. So there's another opportunity. But we are set for Fresh Person Bridge.
Thank you, administration. Is Dawn Wade available to speak yet? Were we able to connect?
I hope so.
Hi.
Madam Chair, we
Yes.
have provided a different platform for Ms. Wade to speak. But while we are connecting, we do have another speaker who had registered on the platform. If we could go to Ms. Amy Miziaco. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record. Hello? I'm just asking that technology reach out to the individuals registered to speak on this item to be sure that they are not having trouble getting into the platform.
Okay.
So if you'd like, we can go to board members and come back to speakers.
Do any other board members have questions at this time? I do have one additional question that we can perhaps discuss. Can administration remind the board members and the listening audience, was the budget prepared with the governor's proposed special education reimbursement rates, or was it planned with a different reimbursement rate in mind? Administration.
Okay.
Chair O'Halloran, Lynn Rule, Director of Financial Planning and Budget. We actually used the same rate as the current year because we were not sure that the increase was going to go through. So we decided to be a little bit more conservative on that.
Thank you, administration. And I just want to share why I asked this question. So the governor had proposed increasing the special education reimbursement rate from about 28%, I think, up to 45 or 50%. And for people who don't spend their time thinking about school budgets as much as maybe some of the people in this meeting, that is a significant amount of money. And the Joint Finance Committee has signaled that they are going to do away with that proposal. In the name of austerity, they are likely going to propose I think it's 20, might be 30%. So it would be an increase, but it would be much smaller. And they're looking to take action on this on Thursday. of this week. And it's my understanding that they're working with a balance of about $2.585 billion. And then we're also expected to see increased revenues when the next estimates are issued in June. And DPI has released a map for what the increased aid under the governor's budget would be. And for our district, I just wanted to, I literally did like back of the envelope calculations of all of our amendments. And all of the amendments that we've brought forward are about $12 million. And so we could keep the administration's budget intact. We could pass all of the proposed amendments that we've brought forward, and we would still have an additional $23 million under the governor's proposed budget. And so I just want people to understand that there's still chance to, raise this concern with their legislators, and that this is a really important issue, because we could do so much more if we join together and say this is worth fighting for. So that's why I wanted to understand how we had brought this budget forward. So I appreciate that you're going in conservatively, because it looks like once again the legislature is looking to, unfortunately, do the wrong thing when it comes to special education funding. So, Madam Secretary, do we have, before I see Director Herndon's hand, but I did want to just double check, were we able to connect with any of the speakers?
We did have Amy Mizialko on the platform to speak on this item.
Okay. There she is. I see her.
Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Amy Mizialko, Mizialko.
Thank you.
School board directors, Chair O'Halloran, Superintendent Posley. I'm here tonight asking for all school board members to support the amendment that sets aside $2.9 million to make sure that we are offering 40-hour positions next school year to a significant portion of paras and CHAs. This does not get us all the way there, but we do see this as an important, meaningful first step to making certain that paraprofessionals and CHAs who desire a 40-hour work week can be offered that in Milwaukee Public Schools. We look forward to working out the final details and meet and confer with administration. And again, MTEA is asking for school board director support on this item. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker that we have registered to speak on this item that we show on the platform is Dawn Waite. Please state your name and spell your last name for the record.
Hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you for allowing.
Okay, so we heard you for a few moments. We will reset the timer and start the clock over so that you have your full time to speak.
I don't think I'll get it with my speakers, but I'll give it.
Uh-oh.
Madam Secretary, if we can't connect tonight, would it be possible to connect with Ms. Waite offline and ask her to write in her testimony to us so that school board members can consider her remarks as we...
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the committee, we did go ahead and email Ms. Waite with an alternative method to log into the meeting to speak tonight, and also written testimony will be taken in the office, and we will ensure that board members receive that right away.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
And we can hear you very clearly right now.
It goes from clear as a bell to cutting out, unfortunately.
Should we give it one more try?
Let's give it one more try.
Miss Wade,
Can you still hear me?
we can hear you.
Okay.
Great.
Let's see how long this lasts.
Okay. Go right ahead. The speaker has gone out again, Madam Chair, and
Okay.
I'll just respond via email if that's all right.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for your patience.
Yeah,
Ms.
thank you
Wade.
for yours. I appreciate it.
All right. So I did see Director Herndon's hand raised before we went back to the speakers. Director Herndon, would you still like to make comments or ask questions?
I have a question that I didn't know I was going to get the opportunity to ask tonight, so I had to kind of look it up. And so the question was related to referendum funding for the music program. And it wasn't about the dollars as much as it was about the transparency on the schools that are listed to be participants and get additional funding for fiscal year 22. The list of schools are for fiscal year 21, which is fine. I think we should have a cumulative report displayed for the public. But fiscal year 2 schools that are participating are not listed in the budget. So I would like to see that. I have a personal copy myself because I had requested this before, but I think it should certainly be a part of the budget book for the referendum. Thank you.
Thank you. Administration, would you like to make comments?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, we will be more than happy to get copies to the board prior to Thursday's meeting, and also to do what we can do to get it uploaded as a part of the document.
It's on
Thank you
page
very
11
much.
of the referendum.
Okay.
What's,
Would you, another comment?
yes.
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, Lynn Rule wants to share exactly. Go ahead.
Hello, Chair O'Halloran, Lynn Rule, Director of Financial Planning and Budget. In the referendum supplement document on page 11, you will see the FTE for FY20, FY21 increase, and then the FY22. So you'll see what the difference is each year. Hopefully that helps.
Director Herndon, was that responsive to your request? I
I
don't
was
have the
just pulling it
documents
up.
in front of me.
I just was looking at it. What page number did you say again?
It's not a
Chair.
Chair O'Halloran, Lynn Rule, Director of Financial Planning and Budget. It's page 11, and I'm sorry, I'm looking at this. You're right, it does only have 21. I was incorrect. I'm sorry.
That's
Okay.
right.
I will check on that and get back to you. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. So we'll look for that before Thursday's meeting then. And Madam Secretary, if you can make sure that we all get a copy of it and that if, when it is available, that it be made public as well, please.
So noted.
Any other comments or questions by the board? I see Director Peterson.
Just as a follow-up, I think we need the same information for the art program. There's been some confusion there. And I would ask also for both music and art for there to be a listing of how many teachers were hired last year. I know that there's a question of positions and there's a question of were all those positions filled. How many teachers were hired last year? How many teachers were are in this budget for being additional teachers being hired for this year? If we could do that for art, music, FIAD, and library, that would be good. Because one of my concerns is while we budget positions, we need to make sure we can fulfill those positions with certified teachers or teachers who are in MPSU, and it's never clear. It has not yet been clear to me exactly our progress in both the last year and what our anticipation for hiring is in this year. So if we could add that to the list to have presented to us prior to Thursday's meeting, I would appreciate it.
Administration, do you feel like you got Director Peterson's request down? It sounds like he would like to know how many were hired last year, how many additional positions are being created, and then the likelihood that we will fulfill those for art, gym, library, and music. Is that correct, Director Peterson?
Yes, and if there were any vacancies, that which was budgeted but we didn't get to hire, it would be good for us to know that.
Okay.
Do we want to speak?
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. We will be happy to provide that information for Thursday's meeting. As far as art is concerned, we had 127 FTEs budgeted and 113.5 were actually filled, leaving a difference of 13.5 FTEs. And for fiscal year 22, there's 137.9 FTEs that are budgeted. And we have this school by school, so you'd be able to see the difference. If you'd like me to go on, I could do the other two subjects.
Director Peterson, would you like that tonight, or would you like that in written form to be provided?
I think written form would be fine, but thank you very much for that information.
Okay. Madam Secretary?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, for those listening tonight, would it be helpful to also hear tonight and receive the information in writing for the listening audience?
Okay.
Yes, Madam Secretary. Administration, please continue.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. Then for the music positions, there were 90.6 FTEs budgeted. 77.5 were actually filled for a difference of 13.1 that were unfilled. Then there are 108.6 budgeted for the proposed fiscal year 22. That was music. And then for physical education, there was 157.4 budgeted. 144.1 were actually filled, leaving a difference of 13.3. So each area was around 13 different of FTEs. And then for fiscal year 22 for physical education, 168.8 are budgeted.
And then I believe library was the last item that Director Peterson had asked about.
And then for library, there was 62.7 for fiscal year 21 FTEs, and then for actual, there was 28.2. And the difference is 34.5 FTEs. For fiscal year 22, there was budgeted 62.1, but 5 FTEs have been added into the ESSER 2 budget detail, making that 67.1.
Thank you, administration. Director Gokul Gandhi, it looks like your hand is raised. Would you like to make a comment or ask a question?
Yeah, I would like to make a comment about the library. This has been something that's come up over and over again that, we don't always have librarians that are full-time at school. So it's surprising to see so many unfilled positions. And so I was just wondering if someone could provide some clarification around why there were so many unfilled library positions.
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, a library media specialist, as when we look at that position, it is a position that has been difficult to fill. As I have talked to staff about, we have to look at possibly a program to get more library media specialists. Then we don't have a lot of librarians because over time that position was cut, and so therefore individuals have just not gone into that area to get the licensure, and so therefore it is a program that we are going to have to work to develop staff for that position. So that's something that we've had a conversation with MPSU about. And also there's a very few programs here in the city that offer, universities that offer the program. And it had requirements that you have to be a teacher first, and it's a master's degree. So it is a position that is not easy to fill when we don't have the candidates to do it. So therefore, we are looking at how we can increase the number of individuals that will go into the library and media specialist job.
Thank you for that. Are there, I see Director Peterson's hand.
Yes, just to follow up, I agree with what the superintendent has said. It also is a fact that because sometimes what we have allocated in terms of FTEs in a school is a 0.2 position, it means that librarians might have several schools to set up their library and run the library. And that's difficult. It's not as attractive as obviously a full-time position in one school or even a half-time position in one school. But that speaks to the need. It's not a criticism of what we're doing. It just speaks to the need of finding both the funding so all schools can fund a full-time librarian, but that obviously is also dependent on what the superintendent said, which is availability of those individuals. So I'm glad that it's in discussion, and I'm glad that we're increasingly aware of the need for librarians as they provide a central and key component to a quality reading program at any level in our schools. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Peterson. I see Director Gokul-Gandhi's hand again.
Chair O'Halloran, would it be possible to get a plan? I don't know what is an appropriate time frame, but a plan for MPSU to address this shortage, and what are innovative ways that whether we can put people in a training program or a library apprenticeship program, some way that we can grow the pipeline. But I'd love to know if the administration could provide a timeline for that or some sort of strategic forecasting on how we're going to address this. Because again, to Director Peterson's point, this is very important. And, as we think about high quality learning and reading, I think this is very much a part of that.
Administration, is that something you would be able to provide to the board members? I don't know that it necessarily is going to be done before Thursday, but in the future, would you be able to provide us with a strategic plan to either grow our own or find new people interested in these positions?
Director O'Halloran, members of the board, we will be more than happy to provide a plan, but that plan is just not MPSU. MPSU does not have the accreditation to be able to offer the program. And to my understanding, it's only one program that is offered, and it's offered at UW-Milwaukee. So we would have to work with the staff there to come up with a plan. We could provide a timeline, but as far as what UW-Milwaukee will be willing to do, and also to find a number of individuals that are willing to go into the program, and then looking at tuition reimbursement and things of this nature to encourage individuals to look at this particular program. But yes, like I said, that we have had dialogue around this already, and those conversations have been had, and we can pull together something on paper but also we have to have buy-in from other organizations that offer the program.
Understood. Thank you, administration. Director Gokul Gandhi, would you be satisfied with seeing this and understanding that this is a conversation in development? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Other board members, questions, comments? Director Garcia.
I think on that vein for MPSU, I think for me, especially, just kind of wrapping my mind as to, the success and the great value, even attending various meetings with different, sectors, districts, MPSU is really seen as a very innovative way to cultivate and retain, talent that's already, within our system. And how can we retain them by providing those opportunities for growth professionally? So would it be possible? I know that there's some emerging kind of strategies that are happening, but would it be possible to get a more detailed kind of plan of what administration has on the docket as to programs that have already been offered, kind of like what any data around those programs, because I think the questions raised by other board members are very important in terms of kind of understanding as to where are we right now in terms of just initiatives that we're taking internally. I know accreditation is a big hurdle for us as an organization to kind of figure out. But I know that there are programs that are already being successful that are helping address, when we're seeing this lack of, or I guess like pipeline issues that we're seeing, just for us to have a more clear image as to what those, pipeline gaps are, where we get finding bottlenecks, and most importantly, what we can do to think creatively as to how to address that. Because this shortages, we're seeing them, in throughout a lot of the area. So I mean, and these are conversations that are beyond our school district. These are things that we're seeing, at a regional and national level. But I think it would be just helpful to see, the programs that we currently have, the success, and kind of like the focus. Because I know I'm a little bit more familiar with the bilingual certification program, but I'm sure there's there's special ed. There's we've been talking about maybe developing one within art. So just kind of like what can be, what's in the pipeline, and then what looking forward, what those emerging partnerships could be.
I think all of us would be interested in this sort of information, and perhaps it would be something that would be good for like a work session sometime. Or I don't know if Madam Secretary or administration can respond, because it is really hard to wrap our arms around something so big as MPSU. And it is a critical piece of our, readiness to educate our students, and understanding, I think, what we're doing and how we could grow it, and how board members, how we can support that growth, would be really helpful. So, Madam Secretary or administration, would you be able to respond?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, in hearing the discussion, would it be helpful to add the MPSU as an item coming forward for strategic planning and budget in the future as we're moving forward with the planning process, looking at next steps in funding and hearing from the administration on what the current program offers and its successes and plans for the future? Would that be helpful in adding that as an item that could be discussed at committee where the public could weigh in on, and the board could get information on planning for the future?
Absolutely. I think that would be I see lots of heads nodding. So I think without taking a roll, I think we're all in support of that as a board.
Okay, great. We will definitely put this on the docket to schedule for a strategic planning and budget meeting. Thank you.
Perfect. Other committee member questions, remarks? Seeing none, then Madam Secretary, what is the next item, please?
The next item for consideration at the committee is the work session and action on amendments to the MPS proposed 2021-22 budget. The recommendation is that the committee determine what action it wishes to take relevant to the amendments and to the superintendent's proposed budget. So that the committee is aware, Director Leonard has informed our office, the Office of Work Governance, that he would like to withdraw amendment number 12 and would like to sign on as a co-sponsor to amendment number 11. And we did have that conversation, so that would be something that once the item comes up, the sponsor would be able to respond to that request.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Secretary. Also, please note, I see Director Carr is on the platform, and I hope that we have connected audio. So at this time, we will hold a work session to consider board members' amendments to the proposed budget. As this is a work session and as is customary and was publicly noticed, we will not be taking public testimony on this item. We will now consider amendments to the proposed budget, which are attached to this item. For each amendment, I will ask for a motion for discussion purposes. We will discuss and take action on that amendment before moving to the next one. Madam Secretary, what is the first amendment, please?
Director Carr, are we able to get audio so that we can? There she is. Okay, great. We will move right ahead to the first amendment, which is amendment number 3 by Director Carr, to provide one-time hazard pay for the period of March 2019 to present to school-assigned secretaries in the same manner as it was provided to other school-based employees. The amendment was held in committee after being previously considered at the May 2021 Strategic Planning and Budget meeting.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Does administration wish to make any comments?
Yes. Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, Keith Mosley, Superintendent of Schools. In regards to Amendment 3 pertaining to hazard pay for secretaries, we would be in support of this amendment if it's extended to cover all employees in the district that physically came to work between March 18th and May 22nd of 2020. We have provided the follow-up to this item, the remote work plans that was requested on May 20th meeting, and we are happy to respond to any questions that you may have. At this time, I will ask Martha Kreisman to provide some additional information. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. Regarding Amendment 3 pertaining to hazard pay for school secretaries were not the only employees to work on site during the time of school closure. When the pandemic first started, the school buildings were closed starting March 16th. Staff was at home the first couple of weeks, and then there was spring break. On April 6, 2020, the following employee groups were required to report to their regular work locations. All 12-month recreation groundskeepers and recreation facilities managers, all 12-month school engineers, boiler attendants, and boiler attendant trainees, all skilled trades staff. On April 6th, the following employee groups were required to be available during normal business hours while working remotely. All 12-month central office staff, all 12-month school-based principals, all 12-month school-based clerical staff. On April 14th, the same took place for 11-month staff, and on April 16th for middle and high school staff, and then April 22nd for K-8 staff, including 10-month secretaries. So at that time, all secretaries were given remote work to perform. On Tuesday, May 26, 2020, all district-wide 12-month staff and 11-month staff returned to in-person work from remote work. 10-month staff remained remote. In June, the board approved a remote work plan and staff was able to request to work from home. As to the number of remote work plans, updates were provided to the board monthly.
Thank you, administration. Does that conclude your statement or your remarks?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Director Carr, would you like to make any comments?
Thank you, Superintendent Posley and administration. Are you all able to hear?
Yes, we can.
I apologize. Graduation evening. But yes, go to my ear. But I do thank you all for taking the time out to send that information to me. I am in support of I guess approving for the hazard pay for all district employees that were mandated to be in the building at that time. And so I don't know if that requires an amendment, a revision to this amendment, or what are the next steps? Are you able?
Thank you, Director Carr. I think we understand. Well, first of all, congratulations. This is very exciting, and thank you for calling in. Madam Secretary, would this require a revision on the amendment, or would we be able to discuss this under the current amendment as it is?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, you could discuss the amendment after there is a motion.
Thank you so much. Do we have a motion?
So at this,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I hear Director Carr.
So I move to open the floor for discussion.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, at this point, with the analysis of the amendment, Director Carr could move approval of the amendment as submitted, or the amendment as outlined with the specifications that the administration has provided, or another motion relative to this amendment.
So I move approval for the amendment as revised according to the administration.
So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, am I understanding that you're moving approval of an amendment to provide one-time hazard pay to employees?
Yes.
Mandated to return to work between March 2019 and present? Or
yes. Yes. I'm sorry.
Okay. Madam Chair, you have a motion.
Thank you. I see Director Peterson's hand. Director Peterson.
Yes. So could you please state how much that's going to, in the motion, how much that's going to cost, and then also where that's coming from in the budget? That's what every motion needs to state, I believe.
Yes. So, Madam Secretary, yes?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, if the administration could provide more information around that in the analysis that was provided.
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, the information that we have provided analysis for is from March 18th of 2020 to May 22nd of 2020. That was the time that staff in the district received hazard pay, not this year at all. And so with that amount, we have an estimate that's in the document that's $40.3 million.
And just to clarify with administration, that would be the 40 million that is cited in the document only covers the time period of March 18th through May 22nd of 2020. It would not cover anything additional as is being proposed. Is that correct?
O'Halloran, members of the board, that is correct. It's
Thank you
only
for that.
between March 18th of 2020 and to May 22nd of 2020.
Thank you for that clarification. I see Director Garcia, then Gokul Gandhi, then Seenson, then Herndon, then Peterson.
Yes, thank you. I guess my question is more clarity as to what job classes or positions are included in the in this analysis. Like, is it anyone who wanted to come in that came in, or people that were required that came in during this period? If it's required, who are the people that or job position titles that were not covered that we're looking to cover for, this round, covering that period for the amount listed?
Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, this is for all staff that was required to come into buildings at that particular time.
Okay, at this time, I see Director Carr's hand raised, and I was hoping to have her skip the line in case she has clarification on either the motion or a question that might kind of help clarify this for other people and negate further questions. So, Director Carr, would you like to speak now, please?
Yes, just for clarification, and I know it was mentioned before, but I just again want clarification. There were specific key staff, administrative staff, that were required to enter the buildings during this time that were already compensated for hazard pay, correct?
Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, no key administrative staff has been given hazard pay for any time frame at all. So this was only the groups that we talked about, which was school safety, school nutrition services, because all of those individuals were directly in contact with people in and out of the door, and then later the school engineers.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go to, I have Director Gokul Gandhi, then Seenson, Herndon, Peterson, Leonard. So Director Gokul Gandhi.
Sure. Chair O'Halloran, I would love to hear from the administration, but also OAE on this. Is there a way to get a more accurate number? So, can we recreate the hours that happened that long ago with transparency and accuracy? Because $40 million is not a small amount of money. And while this is a really great faith effort, one, I worry that not everybody who was in the building would then receive the option to get this. And two, I'm just curious to know, would we be able to recreate the hours with transparency and accuracy?
Administration and then OAE, please.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. It would be difficult to go back to this time period and recreate who was actually on the premises working compared to who was remote. There were some key staff that did have to come in to perform different tasks during that time. And some have been working since day one of the pandemic on site. For example, I'm just going to use my office for an example. We have people that have to pay some of the bills and they have to cut checks. Well, we couldn't allow them to do that from home. So they did have to come in on site to do that work. So there was different tasks that needed to be done on site. And it would be difficult to go and recreate. For our payroll system, we did not know whether somebody was working at home or working on premise.
Thank you. Office of Accountability and Efficiency, would you like to make comments, please?
Sure. Chair O'Hanlon, Administration Office of Accountability and Efficiency. I will concur with the administration's assessment that would be a challenging task to go back and recreate over time. Because in the moment, at those times, there was no capturing of data that I am aware of that would allow us to piece that back this far after the fact, which maybe is unfortunate for the intent of the amendment, but that is the reality of the data capture right now.
Thank you. Now we will go to Director Simpson.
Thank you. My question was actually answered.
Thank you. Then we will go to Director Herndon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amount, this 40.3 million, that is the dollar figure that would be required. Am I correct? And if so, am I muffled? Because it sounds so muffled to me.
I can hear you just fine, Director Herndon.
Thank you. I have a major concern with this, and that is the budgeting, because our budget has already been approved, first of all, and we're in the process of making amendments. And to go back and punch a hole in the funding, which is always limited, but 40 million is no small amount of money. I just think we should think about that carefully.
Thank you, Director Herndon. Director Peterson?
Yes, I feel strongly we should vote this down. $40 million, let's see, for $1 million, you can hire 10 teachers. So for $10 million, you can hire 100 teachers. For $40 million, we could hire 400 teachers. It's like we don't know who was there. We did pay people who had face-to-face contact with people from our community, the safeties and the kitchen help. They got hazardous pay. I've not heard an outcry from very many people saying they deserved hazardous pay, period. The secretaries were to the degree they were in the school, they were in schools that were closed to the public. I think we should vote this down and not think about spending the equivalent to hiring 400 extra teachers, which would do amazing things if we had that money to use. I feel sort of strongly about this.
Thank you, Director Peterson. Next, I see Director Leonard, then Director Taylor, and then I'm going to have Director Garcia, then Director Carr, and then hopefully we can.
I'm just going to reiterate really what Director Peterson just said. I have a lot of concerns. First of all, $40 million, we would be redoing a massive section of a budget, and I don't see any direct lines where we can just move things around that easily. Just way too much money for me to vote on that. Sorry.
Thank you, Vice Chair Leonard. Then Director Taylor.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. I guess I'll reiterate what I said before when this came up. Given that we're in the middle of a pandemic, that we definitely didn't know who was either working or who was not. More of the $40 million is definitely a lot of money, but I think us making sure that we keep track of those individuals that were in the building versus not in the building is something that we have to work on going forward in the future. That's still alarming and concerning to me. And then also when we're talking about 40 million, are we talking about all staff? Because if we don't have a number of those that's going in and out of the building, there's no way we can have an allocated amount of 40 million if we don't even have a number to tie it to. So once again, that's a little bit alarming. And also when we talk about hiring and getting more staff, and I definitely know he didn't mean it like this, let's make sure that we're saying all educators, because all of us kind of make the district grow. I guess I'm on the other side of that now, but thank you for that, Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Director Garcia, I see your hand again.
Yes, my question was just to verify the source of, I know in the original amendment, it says it would be COVID-19 funding through ESSER revenue that we would be using for this. So I just wanted to, again, $40 million would be drawn from what pot of money? And then secondly, is that something that's even, allowable within the parameters of the funding source in terms of, kind of going back and looking at incurred cost, or if, I don't know how that would be, I guess, designated in budgetary purposes, but those are just my questions from the kind of accounting and, moving things along to make this make some financial sense.
Okay, Director Carr, is that correct source? And then administration, after Director Carr responds, can you explain if that is an allowable or expense under the ESSER 2 funding, please? So Director Carr, is that the correct source?
I believe yes.
Okay. And then administration, would you be able to respond if that is an allowable expense under ESSER 2, please?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. I would have to check to be sure that we could pay hazard pay with the ESSER 2 funds. I believe that we could pay hazard pay with the ESSER 2 funds, and the funding goes back to that time period, so we would be allowed to go back to that time period.
Okay, thank you, administration. And then I see Director Carr's hand is up still. So would you like to ask questions, make remarks?
Yes. So I actually agree with the majority that have suggested that this is a lot of money. I wondered if there were a way to, and I know this may be far-fetched, but I figure I'd throw it out there. If there were a way to track those that were affected by the virus, that were working during this time, that also entered the buildings, and those that weren't. If you all are have that information, are you able to provide that to us? Because I think that's very important when we're talking about hazard pay. Ultimately, the hazard pay is to address those who basically put their lives at risk or on the line to perform certain duties and responsibilities as it pertains to work within the district. And so I'm curious to know if there were a way to track those who were impacted by the virus, employees, and those that weren't.
Administration, do we have that data available?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, not that I'm aware of. We would have to do some work there, but that's people's medical records, and I don't know if we can cross over into that era. So that is something that we would have to look at. However, even if we try to reconstruct that time frame with some individuals, we will miss individuals. We have no way of just truly saying which individuals, so someone could make a case and we would have to really go with it, because when we look at even our cameras only record for the recording is only kept for so long. So therefore, to reinvent all of that would be difficult, but it is something that if the board requests, that we could look into.
Director Peterson.
I call the question.
Okay. Madam Secretary, please call the roll. Any other comments before we go?
Yes.
Yes, Director Carr.
I move to withdraw. Yes, I move to withdraw this, and I just ask that moving forward, we with the hopes that we don't have another global pandemic, but in the event that we do, I would hope that we do a better job at tracking this and being clear in who's required to come in, who isn't, and then ensuring that we are taking care of everyone who is required to come in. But I move that we withdraw this amendment.
Okay. Thank you, Director Carr. Madam Secretary, can we move on to the next item, or do we have to take any further action at this time on this particular amendment?
We wait for Dr. Mann to come on, Madam Chair. Since Director—
I'm sorry, I am here. I'm sorry, I was muted talking and nobody heard me. I'm sorry.
It happens to the best of us.
Sorry about that. Yes, Director Carr can withdraw the amendment from consideration. And given that Director Peterson did call the question before Director Carr spoke, we could ask that, if understanding that Director Carr would like to withdraw this amendment, that it be withdrawn by consensus rather than a vote, unless there is an objection.
I see no objections, Madam Secretary.
Okay, then we would move on to the next amendment.
Okay, and what is the next amendment, Madam Secretary?
The next amendment would be Amendment number 5 by Director Taylor, and that is to fund a certified nursing assistant class at 4 MPS high school sites, one on each side of the city, north, south, east, and west, to be offered to students at the low-cost rate such as that offered for the MPS Drive program.
Thank you. Director Carr, would you like to make comments, please?
Do you mean Director
Taylor?
Gosh, I'm sorry, Director Taylor.
Yeah, I was going to move approval of it, but also I understood the administration had some valid information. So if it's okay with you, Chair O'Halloran, I would defer for them to go first, and then I will speak afterwards.
Would administration like to make comments?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding Amendment 5 on certified nursing assistants, I will ask that Martha Kreitzman provide an overview of the amendment, including the administration's recommendations. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, MPS provides opportunities for students at any high school to take the CNA courses through the M-Cubed College Connects and through the Start College Now programs. Through the M-Cube program, students can earn their state certification as a CNA and possibly their license as a practical nurse, or LPN. Through the Start College Now, students can take the CNA course through MATC with potential to earn their state certification. The administration recommends that $300,000 be set aside from ESSER 2 budget detail page 4, dual enrollment classes on campus, to seek an accredited program and set up classrooms during the 2021-22 school year, and offer the coursework in the 22-23 school year if MPS is able to be accredited.
Thank you, administration. Director Taylor, would you like to make comments?
Yeah, thank you for that, Chair O'Halloran. Given that we know all of our students will not attend college, I think us preparing them for successful jobs and career-driven jobs within our community so that as they graduate, they can have something that they can attain to. I am allowing the MPS administration's recommendation and would like to move approval on that. Sorry, it goes in and out. You guys, I'm on the phone.
Okay. Thank you, Director Taylor. I think we heard the motion. And then do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? I see Director Gokul Gandhi.
Chair O'Halloran, I just have a point of clarification. So this $300,000 that would be set aside from the ESSER funds, how would that be different than the accredited program via MATC or college or Start College Now program? Can somebody please clarify that for me?
Administration, do you have any response? And if not, then perhaps Director Taylor might be able to provide comments.
Go ahead.
Chair O'Halloran, Director Gokul Gandhi. Essentially, it's really not different in the sense both would be working towards helping students earn their CNA certification. The difference would be this would be located in an MPS high school, the classroom.
Director Gokul Gandhi, do you have follow-up?
Well, I would, Chair O'Halloran, I would like to hear from my colleagues if they feel like this is I mean, I don't know if, am I allowed to do that? I'm not certain. If this, I guess the question I'm posing is there benefit? Is this an equity issue to provide a CNA program within a classroom, or is this duplication of services at the cost of $300,000 that's already available to our students at a rate that is reimbursed to them? So I'm just wondering what administration or anybody else's responses to that.
Director Taylor, would you like to make any comments before I go to administration? And then I see Director Seamson and Director Herndon. So, yes.
Absolutely. We often know when you offer something that's located within the schools and in our district, it has more of a higher rate for students to attend, for students to actually know what's going on because it's within their specific schools. So I definitely think it goes to equity. And often when we talk about MPS and the things that we are doing, for us to be able to say that this is something that is allocated but also attainable in one school, I do believe it'll be a bigger benefit as well as offering equity to it. Thank you, Chair O'Halloran.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Administration, would you like to make any comments before I go to other board members?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, I would also say that it's an equity issue as well, because that if the program is offered in the school, you would get possibly get more students to be interested in the program because it's at their campus versus with the program that we have at MATC. They have to go online, and they may be one-offs here at each school that will be doing it. And I think it's a possibility that you could probably get more students interested in a pathway. And I just think that, that will entreat more students to be curious about the program.
Thank you, administration. So I see Director Seamson, then Herndon, then Garcia. Director Seamson.
Thank you. Administration, I appreciate that information because one of my questions was going to be about sort of what's our current rate of participation, how many students are enrolled in these programs, and did you feel like this was potential to make that program grow because it would be good for our students? So you kind of already answered the question, but I would be curious to know how many participants we've had over time. Is there sort of an average year to year? How many of our students enroll in the programs we currently have?
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, that is something that we don't have right in our hands tonight, but we will get that to you prior to the full board. So we get that information as soon as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Director Herndon.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I have a couple of questions. Number one is, was there any research done on the schools that currently provide CNA training? That's number one. Number two is there a large demand for it? The numbers that I saw, and it could have been that were provided by administration, there was only like 64 students participating. I'm simply wondering if there is a big demand, if there's been any research that would show that it's a large demand, not to mention that the wages are low for that profession as well. Although MATC's program tends to be more aggressive and far more advantageous over the long haul because they have the opportunity to earn an LPN license, which is what I would favor over and above a CNA, as a stopgap within the current school structure. That would be my issue with it, is to direct our students to reach for the stars. And for sure, the income is very low for CNA. So I would love to see them pursue the LPN which is offered at MATC. That's all I have to say.
Administration, do we have any idea about the demand for this, for CNA, and the potential to grow an LPN program then?
Madam Chair, also the schools that currently offer it.
And the schools that currently offer it. So it sounds like we have 3 questions before us.
Chair O'Halloran, Director Herndon, members of the committee, there is a very high interest in nursing overall with our students. Healthcare trends as one of the more popular pathways. As far as the MQ nursing pathway, we had about 170 students apply for 32 slots. But that is, they're looking at nursing, as Director Herndon mentioned. CNA is the entry course to that pathway. With regards to how many of our schools actually offer CNA certification, the answer within the building is none. We do have pathways, health care pathways, but they're not. The CNA course is either done through MATC, or we also contract with Quality Healthcare Associates to provide students with that CNA training and the opportunity to take the exam. And then we do also, for a number of students, connect that to a youth apprenticeship as well. I believe I answered the 3.
Director Herndon, do you have any other follow-up?
No, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Director Garcia, and then I see your hand, Director Gokul. So Director Garcia?
Yes, my question is that I know that we're trying to have 4 schools representing the different geographic regions of the city. Do we have an idea of how these schools will be selected? Is there already schools that have expressed interest in a program like this? Just a little bit more on as to, do we have schools in mind? Is this open for schools to sign up in? Kind of what is that process?
Director Taylor, do you have any input, or should I ask administration?
I can go and then please ask administration for more of the research, but definitely looking for those schools that will have those high numbers of interest and those that are open to it, because I believe if they're open to it and the student population would like something like this, that it will make the program more successful. Now I'll defer back to the administration. Thank you.
Administration?
Chair O'Halloran, Director Garcia, in terms of selecting schools and planning this out, this certainly would be a year-long process. It is a very extensive process to get set up through the state of Wisconsin. And we would need to find instructors. So the people that do certified nursing assistant training are not your typically licensed teachers. They have to be a registered nurse with at least 1 year experience in a long-term care facility. And then we would need to get them trained as a trainer. And then we would need to select a curriculum, outfit the rooms. So certainly we would take a look at schools that had healthcare pathways as one option. Facilities, the ability to have the appropriate space that will meet the required specifications laid out by DHS. And then we would definitely look at willingness of the school community and interest.
Thank you, administration. Director Gokul.
Chair O'Halloran, I just wanted to make sure, I think the question was answered, that we were looking at schools that already had existing healthcare pathways like the NAF Academy, so that there would be, some infrastructure that would support students' interests and mentorship and kind of a wraparound approach, so that we're not just leaving students out there to decide on their own. I always think when we compound on things, the results are better. So thank you for that information, administration.
Okay, thank you. So we have a motion. Do we have any other comments or questions?
I don't see any board members with their hands raised on this item.
Neither do I. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
And please correct me if I get this incorrect, but on Director Taylor's motion to move approval of the amendment with the $300,000 ESSER 2 budget funding source as recommended by the administration.
Correct.
On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr?
Aye.
Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
I abstain.
Director Leonard?
Yeah,
Director Leonard?
Sorry. Aye.
Director Peterson?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Director Taylor?
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran?
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, 1 abstention. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next item, please.
The next item is Amendment number 9 by Director Herndon, and that is to increase funding for additional communications and marketing materials and output by reducing the budget of contracted schools.
Thank you. Does Director Herndon wish to make comments, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. What was driving this is the dire straits that communications is in. Communications, as we've known for quite some time, needs some help and assistance, and that's where the premise of this comes from. I was looking at taking the funding from contract services because of the loss of schools that they are servicing at this point. But I also should say that there was a discussion and modification with administration, which they can share with you, that would still do this. And it wasn't a line item for a hire. It was more of a line item for services that they would pay for commercials, ads, advertising, assistance with social media, all of that kind of thing, because to be honest, they're going to need far more than this, I would think, in terms of trying to gather students back into our schools this fall. It's going to take a lot of funding, a lot of effort from everybody, and that was the premise behind this. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Herndon. Does the administration wish to make comments, please?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding amendment number 9 on communication materials, I would ask Martha Kreitzman to provide an overview of the amendment and also along with the administration's recommendations. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The administration agrees that there is an increased need for message development and advertisement because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And the recommendation is that ESSER 2 funding should be allocated from the ESSER 2 budget detail, page 9, to fund the full amount of this amendment. The 2 positions that would be defunded due to this proposed amendment are important to support the contracted schools program. The school counselor provides much support for students, their enrollment verifications, transcripts, and assessments. The accountant is actually replacing a past position. When that position was removed from the budget, the work of that position was put onto the work of an already full-time job of an accountant in finance. So this position will help contracted schools increase monitoring and also help finance concentrate their work elsewhere. And so our recommendation is to fund this through ESSER 2 budget detail, page 9.
Thank you, administration. And Director Herndon, that's okay with you?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Okay, quiet crowd. What is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item?
Move to vote, Chair O'Halloran.
We need a motion.
Oh, geez. Chair O'Halloran, I move to vote on amendment number 9 with administration's considerations.
Madam Secretary, did you catch that motion, please?
Madam Chair, the motion before you, if I understand correctly, would be to move approval of amendment number 9 with the funding recommendations as outlined by the administration.
Perfect. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
On Director Gokul Gandhi's motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. What is the next item, please, or next amendment?
The next amendment is amendment number 10 by Directors O'Halloran and Peterson, and that is to add 2 public records positions to the Office of Board Governance.
At this time, I will pass the gavel to Vice Chair Leonard and ask to be recognized.
Director Halloran, do you want to make any comments?
Yes, please. So we as a district have seen an increased number of open records requests, and these are requests that are required by law to be filled. And so I am asking, and along with Director Peterson, to add positions to Office of Board Governance. And in response, when I had a discussion with administration, they explained that this process is kind of two parts of the same puzzle. So in their response, they have requested an additional position be added to their side as well, because the requests come in through the Office of Board Governance, then they are passed along to administration to gather all of the required documentation and then provided back to Office of Board Governance. And then we go through and do any redaction or anything that is required to protect information that is required to be protected. And then we send that back out to the requester of the item. And we have seen an increased number of open records requests. And at this time, it has become kind of burdensome. And so we are hoping to add 2 positions on the Office of Board Governance side and then 1 on the administration side. And that would conclude my comments. And you can either pass the gavel back or you can hold it for the entirety of this amendment. It's up to you.
Sure, I can hang on to it. Director Peterson, although I was going to first ask if administration had anything to add to this.
Do they want us to? Chair Leonard, Vice Chair Leonard, members of the board, regarding amendment number 10 pertaining to addition of record positions, for the Office of Board Governance, I would ask that Martha Kreisman provide an overview, and we'll be happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, the administration agrees with what has been presented, that a position also be added to the administration side to facilitate the work of these open record requests. And so we're here to answer any questions. Just so that you know, with the salary and benefit, it's about $84,000 per position. So that would be adding another $84,000 to the total on here. And the request was to have it come from the vacancy adjustment.
Director Peterson?
Yeah, so I would like to move that approval of this amendment as amended, as changed to incorporate the administration's position, one additional position from the administration. And I'd like to just add that obviously the reason we're doing this is because we're a public institution and we adhere to open meetings, open records laws, and that's different than the over 125 voucher schools that are in this district that do not need to adhere to open meetings, open record laws, or a variety of other state statutes that go to the openness of an institution that receives public funding. That's not part of the motion. It's just the first part.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Madam Chair. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. First of all, are there any other comments from anybody else on the committee?
Mr. Vice Chair.
Yes.
I would like to make a comment as the Chief Officer for the Office of Board Governance. During this last year, we've seen at least double the amount of public records requests and information requests coming through with shorter timelines to be able to respond in the way that we have consistently over the years. And so additional assistance in being able to read through emails once we receive those back from the administration, as well as going through all of the other records to make sure that we're being as transparent as possible, would definitely assist the board in being definitely adhering to the law as providing records as soon as applicable and without delay.
Does anyone else have questions or comments? No hands up. All right. So with no hands up, Ms. O'Halloran, Director O'Halloran, do you want to make a motion?
Vice Chair Leonard, I do believe Director Peterson has made a motion.
Oh, he did.
So I
okay,
think we can proceed to asking Madam Secretary to please call the roll.
Okay, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Peterson's motion to approve the amendment as amended by the administration to add three additional positions focused on responding to public records and information requests. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
And Chair Leonard.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair Leonard. At this point, I can take the gavel back. And
thank you.
Yes,
So
thank
noted.
you so much. All right, Madam Secretary, next amendment, please.
The next amendment is amendment number 11 by Directors Taylor, Peterson, and Leonard to fund additional hours to create more 40-hour paraprofessional positions and HCA positions in schools for those that want 40 hours. And for the record, the amendment was published with Directors Taylor and Peterson, and then later Director Leonard informed our office he'd like to be a co-sponsor, and I made that announcement at the beginning of the meeting. I just wanted to make sure that for our listening audience that there was not a walking quorum, that every aspect of this was followed correctly.
It kind of piggybacks off our previous amendment, doesn't it? Does Director Taylor wish to make any comments?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Halloran. It's definitely not not noticeable that I will be pushing and advocating for 40 hours for some of our hardworking employees here. I do understand that administration has a recommendation, and I would like to move approval of their recommendation.
Okay, thank you so much. Do Director Peterson or Director Leonard wish to add any comments?
Yes.
Director Peterson?
Yeah, I also support this resolution. Director Taylor and I actually simultaneously put in a somewhat similar resolution, so we consolidated it. I'll just add that, as was mentioned by, I think, the president, Amy Misialko of the MTA, they look forward to working with administration to figure out the best way to implement this. This is, just to be clear, this is not going to cover all the paraprofessionals and HCAs, but it will cover a large quantity, and I think it's a good commitment and step. And we'll see. It will be interesting to see how many want to move up to 40 hours, how many want to stay at 30 hours, and we can move from there perhaps next year on something in addition. So thank you.
Thank you, Director Peterson. Vice Chair Leonard, would you like to make comments, or should I move to administration at this time?
Just one quick comment. So yes, I support obviously the resolution as it was written out, the amendment as it was written out. A long time coming. So for those of us that have worked for nearly 30 years with so many of our paras and CHAs, I know that this is something they've been looking forward to. I know it's not perfect. I know not all the way there yet, but it's a great start. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Leonard. Administration, would you like to make any comments?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, regarding Amendment 11 pertaining to 40 hours for paras and HCAs. I would like to say that we have been in communication with the Milwaukee Teacher Education Association now for almost 2 years, back and forth, and also this year ongoing discussions around making sure that we could do this, and we have truly landed an agreement on this $2.9 million. And look forward to continue working with the Teachers Education Association around this. This is will provide us with basically about 308 paraprofessionals, about 81 CHAs, position-wise. So we look forward to making this happen. And at this time, I will turn it over to Martha Kreisman for an overview of the amendment that's before you. Martha.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. We feel comfortable setting aside the $2.9 million from the vacancy adjustment to fund this proposal. And we're here to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Director Simpson.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. Just a comment, as Director Taylor so often reminds us, our paraprofessionals and everybody in our schools, but we have a lot of people besides our teachers who work to educate our children. And if you've been in the classroom, you know that, but this year with COVID, it really heightened the awareness that we need our paraprofessionals in our classrooms. So this is a nice beginning for those of our paras who want to seek those 40-hour positions for their family income, and just because they love working with our children. So thank you very much for this amendment. It's wonderful.
Any other committee members? Director Peterson.
Just real quickly, I also wanted to thank Crystal Ely, the president of the Milwaukee Education Assistants Association, for her work in promoting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Peterson. And before I ask the secretary to call the roll, seeing no other comments, I just want to point out that once again, if we got to 45 or 50% funding for our special education reimbursement, we could give them all 40 hours in addition to every other single amendment we're considering this evening. All right. Any other comments or questions? Nope, I'm a broken record. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the amendment, adding the funding as outlined in the administration's response to this amendment. Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, next amendment, please.
The next amendment is number 13 by Director Garcia, and that is to designate 2 of the additional teachers, the FTEs, as specialists to mentor new visual arts teachers.
Thank you. Director Garcia, would you like to make comments, please?
Yeah, so this amendment was put forth just based on the work that we've already been doing, coming out of the referendum. There's an expansion of art offerings in schools, throughout our district. So based on the conversations that I've had with various, art educators, this became a very central item in terms of, just kind of, through all of the I guess like hype of what's been going on with the additional funding and commitment to expanding, what we're calling now LAMP, I think that I hear a lot of excitement, but I also hear that there's, need for just a firmer commitment from, administration as well as, the board on things that require, transparency, communication, and support. So I'm putting forth this amendment, as a kind of starting point in regards to helping, create a system of support. However, I know that and I'll let administration talk about this, but based on the funding source, I believe that the 2 art mentor specialists would be pooled from the pool of teachers that would be assigned to school buildings. So I would like to shift that funding source to ensure that we're not pulling teachers that would be in school buildings, but rather, in addition and support of this growth from the support side. And I say this specifically because, I think it's really important for us as, the folks on the higher level, looking at ways that we're really supporting a learning community. I think that, through my investigation conversations with administration through this amendment process, a lot of really amazing initiatives I think that we have in the pipeline, within specifically within, arts and music programming, related to the presence of ensuring that every student has access to this very important items of development. So with that, I think it's important for us to ensure that, the adequate support is being done. So I would like to amend my amendment. So to reflect that these 2 additional positions would be coming from ASTR money rather than just allocation of FTEs that have not yet been filled, as we were informed today of the 13.5 FTEs that were not filled this year.
Thank you, Director Garcia. Madam Secretary, did you catch that? Okay, thank you.
So noted.
Administration, would you like to make comments, please?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding amendment number 13 pertaining to visual arts mentors, I will ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview as well as the administration's recommendation. Martha.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreisman, Chief Financial Officer. The district has a program for mentoring new teachers and has 1 visual arts support teacher in the budget already. The administration recommends adding 1 position instead of 2, as 1 already exists. Funding would come from page 9 in the ESSER 2 budget detail for the 1 position instead of from the referendum, as those positions are for art teachers in schools. And the administration looks forward to hearing your deliberation on this item.
Very diplomatically stated. Director Garcia, did you would like to make comments?
Yeah, I mean, I think just to call to attention the fact that there, you know, when I said that there's like some great initiatives that we have in the pipeline for, you know, our supporting educators, you know, there's that grant for supporting first year teachers, which I think is great, and that there's already one that's being planned for that. And I guess my intent with this is, you know, again, like how do we build a sustainable way that it's not just first year mentors, but really how do we look at the mentorship component for teachers who have been in the building, or maybe now they've increased their allotment, and how are they kind of managing that? I guess like network of support are we building into these opportunities as we're rolling out an initiative that's going to stay here, you know, with the referendum money. So it's just my way of, like, again, a starting point for us to really think about sustainably, you know, supporting and adequately staffing needs that are present and that currently, based on my conversations, are not being met.
Thank you. Do other committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? Oh. Okay. So what is the pleasure of the committee with respect to this item then? Do we have a motion before us?
We do not have a motion at this time.
Okay.
Can I move to vote?
Yes, you may.
Director Garcia? Just for clarity, Madam Chair, Director Garcia, is that to move approval of the amendment?
Yes, of my amended amendment.
And Madam Chair, Director Garcia, is that to make an amendment to the language that requires one additional specialist from ESSER funding as outlined by the administration, or two specialists? Just for clarity.
I will say two.
So to fund two specialists from the ESSER funding. Okay. So the motion before you would be to approve the amendment with the funding source as outlined by the administration from ESSER funding for two specialists, two art specialists.
All right. Any other comments? Oh, Director Herndon.
I'm a little confused on the number of FTEs, because this amendment says two, but then there was information or discussion on one, because one is already in the referendum funding. I'd like clarification.
Director Garcia, can you clarify your intent with this amendment, please? Is it one additional, or is it creating two in addition to the one in the referendum?
So it would be two additional in addition to the referendum, which is specifically for first year teachers. So the one that we already have, leave it as is. It's awesome. But I would like to have two FTEs from ESSER funding in addition to the one for first year educators.
Thank you for that clarification. And I do see Director Gokul-Gandhi's hand.
Chair O'Halloran, I was just looking back at the data that Ms. Kreitzman provided to us. So for art in FY22, we have 137.9 FTEs budgeted, and we still had 13.5 positions unfilled. So I would like to know, are we anticipating there to be FTEs in art for FY22 that are not filled? And do we have an estimate of that number?
Administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. We are increasing the number of FTEs for art, and we are doing aggressive hiring practices to try to fill them all. But as you could see across the different subject areas, there was about a 13 FTE gap. And so I would expect to see something similar for next year. And that is why we have a vacancy adjustment that we talked about earlier, because we always kind of predict that we either will not fill all our positions or some people will leave during the year.
So, Director Gandhi. So, Chair O'Halloran, I am wondering for the sustainability, of this position. I realize that these positions are, correct me if I'm wrong, which I could be, these positions are intended to be in school instructing art. But if there are unfilled positions that we have year over year, would it be more feasible or more sustainable to allocate those positions from this FTE pool that fulfills the art purpose? Does that make sense?
I believe it makes sense. Director, I see Director Peterson's hand. I'll move to his question, and then perhaps if Director Garcia would like to respond to anything. Director Peterson.
Yeah, I appreciate the funding source that Director Garcia has identified. My concern is, regardless of the funding source, having three, because there's one in the budget, then two more, three art mentors will probably mean that there'll be one less teacher teaching full-time in a school or half-time in two schools, because I would imagine that the art mentors that we would hire would probably come from our current group of teachers. And I also want to just point out that through the Linden Garden and the Echo Art grant that I think was funded by the Cargill Foundation for an 8-year grant to do a professional development and support for art teachers. There is, in addition to the mentoring that takes place right now for all new teachers, that exists as well. So I'm inclined to suggest a substitute amendment that would limit, that would reduce it to one, as administration has suggested. So I'd like to move a substitute amendment to do so.
Madam Secretary.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, given that this amendment was proposed by a board director, another board director could certainly submit a separate amendment. However, there are no substitute amendments to amendments submitted by another board member. But there certainly could be the submission of a different amendment. So the board would need to take action on the amendment that is currently before the body.
Just a question. So nor could I amend this amendment? I couldn't amend this motion?
Madam Secretary.
The motion before you right now, and this is what the discussion is on, would be approval of the amendment with the funding source as outlined by the administration from ESSER funds for 2 art specialists. So that is the motion that is before you. The motion maker could definitely hear conversation that would allow them to make changes, or another board member could submit a different amendment.
So I could.
Director Garcia.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
So would I then be able to kind of take like Director Peterson's suggestion and amend my amended amendment?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, actually, that would actually be moving approval with the recommended funding source and structure as outlined by the administration, which is for 1 additional art specialist.
I see. Okay. All right, let's do that.
Okay.
We're going to get there. I have a good feeling about this. Madam Secretary, do you have a clear statement of the motion before us?
I do. Madam Chair, members of the body, the motion before you would be to approve the amendment with the funding sources outlined by the administration from ESSER funds for one additional art specialist.
All right. Do committee members wish to make comments? I mean, you can, but Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Director Garcia's motion is read into the record. Director Carr?
Aye.
Director Garcia?
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi?
Aye.
Director Herndon?
Aye.
Director Leonard?
Aye.
Director Peterson?
Aye.
Director Simpson?
Aye.
Director Taylor?
She might have been disconnected.
Okay, I do see her.
I see her on, but I know she said her connection wasn't great, so.
Okay, and Chair O'Halloran?
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, 1 temporarily absent. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next amendment, please.
The next amendment before the committee would be by Director Taylor, and that is to reallocate nutrition funding in order to provide a fresh fruit and vegetable option every day in all schools and a full salad option for half the high school population every day.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Is Director Taylor, do we have you on? I believe she will be back on. She's just trying to reconnect. Maybe we can move to administration, and then when Director Taylor is back on the platform correctly, then we can hear from Director Taylor. So administration, would you like to make comments, please?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding amendment number 14 pertaining to fresh fruits and vegetables options, I will ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview as well as the administration's recommendation, and after which we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The administration does not feel a budget amendment is necessary for this item. The funding is already included in the Department of Nutrition Services food costs. Nutrition Services is committed to offering fresh fruits and vegetables to the students on a regular basis, and this is evidenced by their partnership with the Lifetime Foundation and our unique delivery of the fresh fruit and vegetable program. And we look forward to any questions as you discuss this item.
Thank you, administration. I see Director Taylor's back on. Director Taylor, would you like to make comments, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Heller. I have to stop with for a second. Definitely happy to see the administration saying that this is something that will take place. Yes, I have a couple questions, but I want to ensure that this is something that our young people have been consistent in talking about when they talk about nutrition and budget. From LIT, from Yes, even for my own son, he doesn't eat the school lunch, and if anybody knows him, he's a healthy young man. He loves to eat. And so I just want to make sure then that we are understanding getting that healthy meal, having accessibility to healthy fruits and vegetables is something that can help our babies learn better, be more equipped, be healthier, and it's something that can surround them in their family. And so my question to administration is saying, if this does not have to be a budget amendment, are we saying that this is something that's going to take place without the amendment, or are they saying it's something that we're already doing? Because I worked in the school, lunches are all often thrown away. If you see the amount of food that gets thrown away because the students aren't eating it. So I want to make sure that we are having this as an option. So if we're saying this is something that we're going to put in place, I will be okay with withdrawing it. But if we're saying this is something that we already have in place, I would have to respectfully disagree with the administration. But I do know during the pandemic, they did give out fruits and vegetables every Thursday. So I am thankful for that as well.
Okay, thank you, Director Taylor. Administration, would you like to respond to Director Taylor's question, please?
Sure.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, this is Omar Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition Services. What I would like to state is that this current school year has been very different because of COVID and all the virtual learning. So I would like to bring your attention to the time prior to the pandemic. So what we used to serve is we have about 90 schools who are part of our Breakfast in the Classroom program. And so those classrooms in the breakfast, we do serve at least twice a week fresh fruit or vegetable to those students in that program. And then the rest of the schools who are not part of the Breakfast in the Classroom program, we do offer a fresh fruit bowl option 2 to 3 times a week. In addition to that, during the lunch menu, every single day we either offer a fruit or a vegetable. Lastly, we also participate in fresh fruit and vegetable program under the USDA programs. And we usually have about 80 schools participate in that program. So those schools who participate in the fresh fruit and vegetable programs, they get additional twice a week fresh fruit and vegetables. And during the current school year, our budget for the fresh fruit vegetable program alone was over $1 million. And lastly, what I would like to mention is that the high schools, we do offer them salads and wraps throughout the year. However, during this current school year, because of pandemic, we had to switch to our pre-packed lunches, and part of the reason is the safety of all of our staff and also the safety of the students. We had to switch our operations to pre-pack operations, and the same central kitchen that used to prepare the salads and wraps for our high schools is now being used to prepare the pre-packed meals for other school sites. So this has always been our priority to offer more fruits and vegetables to our students, and we will continue to do that. The only last thing that I would like to mention is this coming school year, we may not be able to fulfill everything that is stated in this amendment. That is because of the COVID situation, because of the safety concerns, as well as the staffing level that we currently have. We have about 200 staffing vacancies, and we are. It's very difficult to fill those positions right now. As you know, all the restaurant industry is also struggling to attract workforce in this field. And lastly, we also have to look at the refrigeration and storage capacity at our schools. So that is another hindrance to implement this 100% in the coming school year. But as soon as we go back to normal operations, we will do everything we can to make this happen. And I believe we are already pretty close to it during the normal school days.
Thank you, Administration. Director Taylor, I see you are unmuted. Would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, I want to thank administration for that, but also once again, this is something that has came up many years from our young people and our students. And given that it should be a safety issue, that our students do have healthier meals, to say this is a safety issue that we may not be able to do it. So I am going to move approval of this item. And when I talk about prepackaged, I feel like any meal that's in aluminum and plastic that can go in a heating oven and does not, I don't know, burn, it's a little questionable. So with all of that, Madam Chairwoman, I would still like to move approval of this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Taylor. So noted, Director or Madam Secretary. Do other committee members wish to make comments or ask questions at this time? Director Simpson.
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. So a couple of things I appreciate the work that's been done up to this point. I know in terms of improving our school lunches and providing more fresh fruit and vegetable options. I think it's great that our students have been on the board floor asking for healthy food. Like that's a really wonderful thing that they're doing. And I think we need to be responsive to that. I do understand this last year has been difficult in terms of, we can't judge our food based on this last year, although I really do appreciate the bags that have gone home to our families. I'm wondering if we have, a current plan to expand the fresh fruit and vegetable program to cover more schools. Do we have a current plan to kind of take a look at the options we're providing our students? If a salad bar isn't something we can provide, are we looking at ways to improve the options, some vegetarian or vegan options, or meals that are sensitive to different cultures or holidays? Are we kind of taking a look at some of those things in terms of planning, for down the road?
Administration.
Sure. Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, Umar Abdullah, Director of School Nutrition Services. Yes, we always look at options, what we can do, how we can serve better to our student population. That includes, the different cultures. This year, when we were doing our fresh fruit and vegetable programs, we had, there was 1 month, we picked a different culture and featured, each week during that month. So we always would be trying to do as much as we can, considering the available resources that we have. As well as in the next school budget, we have added a chef position, and the sole purpose of that position is to improve our menus, do that taste testing, and make them more appealing to our students. And so that is something that we are moving in that direction now.
Thank you, Administration. Director Simpson, do you have any follow-up? I'll just put in the plug that Bayview High School has a great culinary arts program. I'm sure students would love to participate. Director Gokul Gandhi.
Chair O'Halloran, in the way that we talked earlier about including, oh my gosh, I can't even remember now because it feels like it was so long ago. But I guess basically the ask is, could there be a time, whether it's during this committee meeting or a full board meeting, that we really spend some time talking about the challenges and opportunities with our school nutrition program? I often think this is a little nebulous thing. I mean, even for me to understand. And so with Director Taylor and Director Simpson's kind of reiteration that our students have been asking for this absolutely is an equity and anti-racist issue to provide our kids with healthy options. And so what can be done so that we can take some time to really have an honest conversation about how we move forward on making some improvements?
Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi. Madam Secretary, do we still have quarterly updates, nutrition updates coming to committee? Is that planned for this upcoming year?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, nutrition items are scheduled typically for the Accountability, Finance, and Personnel Committee. And that's where the update would be provided.
Is there a way we can have a more in-depth conversation added to Director Gokul Gandhi's point, or perhaps schedule another session or get some update otherwise?
I believe, do I see the administration waiting? I know Director Peterson is in the queue, but I thought I also saw the administration. Yep, Dr. Posley is looking to speak on that item.
Okay, administration.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, yes, we have quarterly reports, and we have made some great shifts and strides in the area of school nutrition over the years, and we have taken in consideration what young people have shared with us. Our next report is due to the board next month in June. We'll be more than happy to address those issues around our menus and things of this nature. So that will be an opportunity for an in-depth discussion around the school nutrition services program.
Thank you, administration. Director Gokul Gandhi, do you have follow-up?
Yeah, just one thing. And if we could include in there an aspirational, what does it look like to give our kids the best, and what does it look like to make that happen? What's the price tag on that? How do we move forward with that? Because oftentimes I feel like we're reviewing what's going on and what improvements we made, but what does it look like to take us to the next level? So if administration in the June report, you could provide an aspirational, what does that look like goal, that would be really helpful.
Thank you. Director Peterson.
Yes, I look forward to that conversation at the AF&P committee, and certainly just so the listening audience knows, people are welcome to testify about their concerns and their aspirations in terms of food and nutrition. The other thing I'll say is, I think we should certainly consider in our ESSER 3 conversations about the budget, the need to enhance the refrigeration capability at all schools, so that lays the foundation of being able to store and serve more fresh fruits and vegetables. So let's just make sure that happens. It certainly would be in keeping with the ESSER goals of providing a safe and healthy environment.
Thank you, Director Peterson. Do we have any other comments or questions? I see Director Garcia, then Director Herndon. Director Garcia?
Yeah, mine is just sharing a story based on Director Peterson's comments. I had the fortune of touring Forest Home Elementary School, and one of the items that the staff was really proud of was their new refrigeration system. And I think that there's schools within, our district that have taken it upon themselves to kind of look at what refrigeration looks like, improved refrigeration under the context of, our current needs. So, as we explore that, just making sure that we connect with the schools that have already begun that type of work.
Thank you, Director Garcia. Director Herndon, would you like to make comments, ask questions?
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm glad to see that this discussion is going much deeper than just the fresh fruit, because about 2 years ago, we were fighting for improved meals for the students in our schools, and we're back at that again, and we need to be. And I'm totally supportive of an expansion of the discussion, as you mentioned earlier, Madam Chair, with a couple meetings thrown in so that we can really get to the bottom of it and not having to continue to repeat and cover the same issue. It's like it's not getting fixed. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Herndon. Okay, seeing no other questions or comments, Madam Secretary, will you please call the roll?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve amendment number 14 to reallocate nutrition funding in order to provide a fresh fruit and vegetable option every day in all schools and a full salad option for half of the high school population every day. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. What is the next amendment, please?
The next amendment is amendment number 15 by Director Taylor and co-sponsored by Director Carr, and that is to implement a mental health component as part of the 53206 initiative, to include a designated trauma-informed care specialist for the area.
Director Taylor, would you like to make comments, please?
Really quick, mental health is something that affects our students as well as our family. I would like to defer to Director Carr, just to kind of save my voice a little bit, you all.
Yeah, absolutely. Director Carr, would you like to make comments?
Yes. First, I want to thank Director Taylor for this. We actually merged or we're working on two similar resolutions and decided to come together on this one. Like Director Taylor, mental health is a top priority, especially given the pandemic and the impact that the pandemic has had on many children and their mental health, as well as others in the community. I think it's very important that this amendment is approved to address the underlying trauma and social and emotional capacities of our students. And so I am definitely in support of this resolution, and I encourage all of my fellow board members to approve of it, or I support it, as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Carr. Administration, would you like to make comments, please?
Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding to amendment number 15 pertaining to mental health initiative in the 53206, I would ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview, and after which we will be happy to answer any questions you may have. Martha.
Chair O'Halloran, Director Taylor, members of the committee. As part of the 53206 initiative, the district provides 8 trauma support specialists, 1 in each 53206 school. There is also a mobile trauma care team that serves the 53206 schools. Additional mental health supports are being planned through the ESSER 2 funding that includes the 53206 schools. Therefore, this is not needed at this time. The administration also does not recommend reducing a K-4 classroom teacher to fund this amendment. And we're open for questions.
Thank you, administration. Do committee members wish to make questions or wish to make comments or ask questions? Vice Chair Leonard and then Peterson, Director Peterson.
I have no problem with the intent of the amendment, but I just would never go against losing a K-4 teacher. We've worked so hard on that referendum to reduce those class sizes that that would not be someplace that I would cut from in order to make this happen. So I'll keep it. I'll just keep it that short. I just know that we worked hard on that referendum, and the idea was to reduce those class sizes, and that has a lot of positive effects. So I don't want to go in that. I don't want to go in the other direction once again. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Leonard. I do see Director Carr's hand raised. Would you like to respond to Vice Chair Leonard's comment?
Yes, I definitely respect your position, and I wish there were another way. And I'll follow Director Taylor's lead on this. I wish there were another way where we can do this and prioritize the mental health as well as class size reduction. And so again, I'll follow the lead on this and follow the recommendations of Director Taylor. But I think it is very important. And just being a former educator, there's so much emphasis on classroom size, academics, but if our children are not mentally well and mentally supported emotionally, socially at capacity to then perform their other duties, I don't think that there's any, I'm sorry, I'm kind of scattered brain. I don't think that there's any discussions that can be had beyond the mental capacities. And given that 53206 is one of the most fragile and marginalized zip codes with the greatest needs as demonstrated through or as reflected through the data, I think that this should be a priority. But I wish there were a way that we could do it without cutting that teacher, because that's important too. but we do have to prioritize the mental health. And again, coming out of we're not even out of it, but experiencing a global pandemic where the physical, mental, social, emotional experiences of our students are even greater, we have to prioritize that and really have more individuals to address the needs, the trauma that's experienced from our students.
Okay, thank you, Director Carr. Director Peterson?
Yes, I agree that we need to direct attention to the trauma of our students. I do, however, agree with the administration on the 2 points that cause me to pause on this. One is not to reduce a K-4 teacher, but more importantly, actually, is the fact that just to recognize that last year in the budget deliberations, we did attend to 53206 district on this question. And we currently, as was stated, employ 8 trauma support specialists, 1 in each of the 53206 schools, and also then have a mobile trauma team of 4 people that is 100% dedicated to addressing psychological trauma and the needs of the students in the 53206 schools. So I guess that one of my questions for the makers of the amendment is, since every school has a trauma support specialist, in the 53206 zip code, what would be the role of this additional 9th trauma-informed care specialist?
Director Taylor?
Thank you, Chair Allen. I'll accent Director Peterson's question and just add a comment. And so I do know that last year we allocated these individuals to working here. I have since asked in and would love to get from the administration some of the work that these individuals are doing within the 53206 community. From my understanding, there was no one specifically assigned to that district, or we didn't have data or information to ensure that this priority topic was being talked about. As everyone know, I'm always in the community. I've had within the last month and a half 4 youth come to me, and each one of them talked about suicide in the middle of a pandemic in which they had to stay in the house and other challenging issues arose. So I just want to make sure that we are addressing those needs. And thank you to MPS for having the 8 individuals. Thank you to MPS for having the mobile team. But if our students and families have no idea how to obtain this assistance and resources, then once again, we as a district, and then me also as a board of directors, we're failing them. So maybe if we can get out more resources or communication so that our families and students are aware of these type of resources that we have within the district, it can help these students. And so I'm open to say, because in no way would I want to cut any classroom, let alone K-4, to have this conversation. But I also think we need to come up with some type of strategy that the information and resources that we do have already within the district is being allocated, but also being offered to those families. So I am open with my co-sponsors to take it off of the table and withdraw it, but also to come back to the drawing board to say, how do we initiate that our families do know that we have these services, and also to have some data behind those individuals that are already working in this field in the 53206 schools, because I have received none of that. Thank you, Chairwoman, and hopefully that answered your question, Director Peterson.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Administration, can you just speak to...
Madam Chair?
Yes, Madam Secretary.
Before going to the administration, we'd like to hear from the co-sponsor on Director Taylor's withdrawal of the amendment, if the co-sponsor is in agreement. Director Carr?
I support Director Taylor. Yes.
So noted.
Thank you.
So at this point, the amendment is withdrawn and not for consideration by the body.
Being that it is no longer for consideration, then we forego comments and questions. Is that correct, Madam Secretary?
That would be correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, then, Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment, please?
The next amendment before the body would be amendment number 17 by Director Taylor, and that is to fund instruction to restore the cosmetology program at the Barack Obama School.
Director Taylor, would you like to make comments, please?
Very quickly, just trying to give other options for our students. This was something that was in place before. It was definitely something that they're looking forward to having again. Listening for the administration's recommendation, because I do believe there's a way that we can incorporate this. So I will move approval of the administration's recommendation on this item, Madam Chairwoman.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Madam Secretary, did you catch the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair, members of the body. Just for clarity, would Director Taylor be moving approval of the amendment as printed, or with modifications as recommended by the administration?
Modifications that are recommended by the administration.
So noted.
Thank you for that clarification. Administration, would you like to make comments?
Yes, Chair.
Oh, I believe you're on mute. Administration, we cannot hear you.
Can you hear it? What about
now?
now?
We can hear you.
All right, Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, and regarding amendment number 17 pertaining to the trades program at Obama, I would like to ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview of the amendment that is before you, as well as the administration's recommendations.
Members of the committee, Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The amendment would reduce funding for dual enrollment classes to fund a cosmetology program at Obama. Students do have the opportunity to take cosmetology classes through Start College Now at MATC. To provide this on site at Obama, the $45,000 proposed would be used to refurbish the lab, and remaining funds would be used for a contract with MATC for an instructor. Funding could come from page 4 of the ESSER 2 budget detail. And I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, administration. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? I believe I saw Director Carr's hand raised earlier.
Yes, I just had a question about the partnerships, and if they were possible, if we could specifically develop a partnership with I think it was a Start College Now to have a visibility or a presence in the building, and ultimately I think I'm on the right thing. Have a presence in the building, and then ultimately eliminate this expense.
Administration, would you be able to respond to this?
Chair O'Halloran, Director Carr, John Hill, Director of College Career Readiness. Start College Now is a statewide program that allows any high school student to attend or take classes at a Wisconsin technical college while they're in high school, paid for by the district. So basically any student within MPS can apply. There are set dates, usually October 1st, March 1st. You're always applying the semester before to take the classes. And the school counselors work with the students to help them fill out their applications and select courses. So in terms of cosmetology, we have had some students at different high schools take cosmetology courses at MATC over the last several years. We've had some students do that.
Thank you, administration. Director Carr, your hand is still raised.
Yes. What is the eligibility requirements for that program, and how would it? Oh, go ahead. Oh,
you can finish your question.
Oh, no, that's fine. What's the eligibility requirements?
Administration.
Or criteria. I'm sorry.
Chair O'Halloran, Director Carr. Typically, on our end, we're looking at one, that they're not classes we offer, and two, that the student is on track to graduate. So generally, our rule of thumb on our end of the application process is if the student is in danger of not graduating in 4 years because they need to make up courses, and this would prevent them from doing that, we will not move that student forward. In terms of the college end, it's whatever their general admission requirements are. So Start College Now is with the technical college. Early college credit is going to be the 4-year colleges. So, for example, UWM will require a 3.0 GPA. MATC does not require that same GPA level.
Thank you, administration. Do we have any other committee member questions or comments? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, would you like to call the roll, please?
On Director Taylor's motion to approve amendment number 17 to fund instruction to restore the cosmetology program at Barack Obama. And the amendment would be approved with modifications as recommended by the administration, with ESSER 2 as the funding source. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr.
Aye.
Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. What is the next amendment, please?
The next amendment is amendment number 18, and that is by Director Taylor to create a business planning and financial literacy course offered as a telepresence course for each region.
Thank you. Director Taylor, I know your voice is not great, but would you like to make comments, please?
Yeah, I would like to approve the amendment with the administration's recommendation.
Thank you, Director Taylor. Administration, would you like to make comments?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran, members of the board, regarding amendment number 18 pertaining to business planning and finance course, I would like to ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview, and after which we will answer any questions that you may have. Martha.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, the amendment proposes a business planning and financial literacy course offered for each region. MPS was awarded the Financial Literacy Innovation Grant to teach personal finance. Students will take 1 semester of personal finance at 3 schools. In addition, 3 high schools offer business courses. The administration has a plan to begin expanding personal finance across all schools in the district, and we are open to any questions.
Thank you, administration. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? I don't see, I do see Director Peterson's hand raised. Director Peterson.
I just want to mention that in one of the forums that I participated with LIT, the students spoke strongly about wanting to have financial literacy classes. So I think this is a good response to that request. Thank you, Director Taylor.
Thank you, Director Peterson. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Taylor's motion to approve the amendment number 18 to create a business planning and financial literacy course as modified, approving the amendment as modified by the administration. Director Carr. Oh, she's temporarily absent. Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi,
Aye.
Director Herndon,
Director Herndon, you're muted.
Aye.
Okay.
Director Leonard,
Aye.
Director Peterson,
Aye.
Director Simpson,
Aye.
Director Taylor,
Aye.
and Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. What is the next amendment, please?
The next amendment is amendment number 19, and that is by Director Simpson to increase school social workers FTE by 3 by reducing contracted services for school safety.
Thank you. Does Director Simpson wish to make any comments, please?
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. So, to Director Taylor's point previously when she was speaking about getting resources into the hands of our families, our social workers play a valuable role in terms of communicating all of that to our parents and our families when they are in need of some services. In addition to that, in our schools, they provide, small classwork. They help if there is a traumatic event with a student. They are able to get resources not only to families, but also to our teachers as well. They host, small groups to deal with children who need a little additional support. So I think that increasing and expanding our pool of social workers is something that would really benefit our students. I know we are increasing that by 5 already, but I would still like to stick with the additional 3 beyond that. And I would like to move approval of this with the administration's recommendation of taking the funding from ESSER 2 instead of the line item I had cited, which I did not know that was going to be running Rebels. So I would like to move approval of this amendment with administration's recommendation.
Thank you, Director Simpson. Administration, would you like to make comments, please?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding amendment number 19 pertaining to an increasing social workers, I would ask that Martha Kreisman provide an overview as well as the administration's recommendation, and after which we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have. Martha.
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, Martha Kreisman, Chief Financial Officer. While 5 FTE social workers have been added to ESSER 2 in the budget detail, the net result is really only a 2.55 FTE increase compared to the fiscal year 21 due to a decrease of FTEs in grant funds of social workers. So adding 3 FTEs in ESSER 2 by reducing funding allocated on page 9 of ESSER 2 budget detail would restore those positions. And we look forward to your discussion.
Thank you, administration. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? I don't see any comments. I would just like to make one comment. Once again, broken record here. If we had the additional funding from special education reimbursement increased under the governor's proposal, we could hire an additional 215 social workers in addition to funding all of the amendments we're currently considering. So this is why it's so important for us to all go to Madison and ask for this funding. Director Simpson.
Thank you. I would just like to add, just taking note of one of our speakers who spoke of equity. And I know that the district does this, but, just as we're placing these resources, to always keep in mind those schools that are the neediest and taking that into consideration in terms of where these additional resources go. That's all.
Thank you, Director Simpson. Do we have any other comments or questions? Oh, Director Gokul Gandhi.
Director Simpson, while you took the line from the safety budget and it was a miscommunication, I do think that there's a bigger point to be made here from when we had conversations with our lit students that, we should start to think about the way we allocate funds for school safety. And this really is just a better use of money when we're talking about restorative justice, when we're talking about harm repair. To me, this is a really good investment. So as we think about when our ESSER fund timeline runs out, considering looking at our safety budget and reimagining what that could potentially be.
Thank you, Director Gokul Gandhi. Director Simpson, was that hand just acknowledging?
Just
Okay.
giving her, yep, just acknowledging, and I agree and support that completely.
Perfect. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Simpson's motion to approve amendment number 20 to increase funding, one second, for school social workers by 3, reducing funding from the ESSER 2 as recommended by the administration. On the motion as read into the record, Director Carr is temporarily absent. Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, 1 temporarily absent. The motion passes.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Next amendment, please.
The next amendment is amendment number 20 by Director O'Halloran to increase funding to the MPS Drives program from the ESSER funds.
At this time, I will pass the gavel to Director Leonard and ask to be recognized.
So noted.
Okay.
Director Halloran, do you want to speak to your amendment, please?
Thank you, Director Leonard. As I explained in the intent, we annually educate roughly 2,500 students between the ages of 15 and a half and 16, and the MPS Drives program offers roughly 1,715 seats. This amendment would be to raise the allocation by 285 seats, recognizing that some students choose to go outside of the MPS Drives for their driver education program. Some students are not interested in driver's education. Some students aren't eligible for a variety of reasons, including perhaps being an undocumented citizen. So I am proposing this to increase the seats to 2,000. I did propose doing ESSER funds, which I think the administration has pointed out may not be an allowable expense under ESSER. I was just trying to find a one-time source, recognizing that MKEREC and the staff who work on this are seeking outside funding sources to increase the seat allocation from, I believe, Representative Moore. They've reached out to Senator Baldwin, insurance companies. They can ask for funding. You can donate through the foundation. So there's a variety of ways they're trying to increase the seats allocations. And I just wanted to we got a statement of support kind of later in the afternoon from the Coalition for Safe Driving, MKE. They're a group of concerned citizens, neighborhood groups, and community stakeholders who are committed to preventing reckless driving in Milwaukee County. And they recognize, as I tried to make clear, that reckless driving is not the sole purview of young people. Some of us geriatric millennials are also the reckless drivers in this city. So I think we all have our part to play, but this is one way that MPS can play our part in making our streets safer. And to the point of, as we talk about restorative justice, let's talk about preventing harm rather than addressing harm down the line. And this coalition supports it, recognizing that far too many of our driving age youth lack the resources to access the limited number of driver's education opportunities presently available. I also would point out that this is a career readiness issue, that many jobs require a driver's license, and also many jobs are located in areas that people need to drive to in order to take advantage of those opportunities. So I think that this is kind of a two-part issue, and at this time, that concludes my comments.
Administration, do you want to make any comments?
Yes, Vice Chair Leonard and members of the board, regarding amendment number 20 pertaining to MPS Drive, I will ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview as well as the administration's recommendation. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, the administration agrees with the importance of providing MPS drives for the safety and career readiness of our students. The amendment proposed reducing the Partnership for the Arts funding within the Extension Fund to provide more allocation for MPS drives. MPS drives would need to be funded from School Operations Fund or some other grant in order to provide this service to MPS students. The administration, as it was said, has been looking for funding other places, and that's kind of too bad because the city of Milwaukee reduced funding by $50,000 for this program. And the administration recommends providing funding for this by using the vacancy adjustment line in school operations. We look forward to your comments.
Director Halloran, do you want to ask any questions?
I don't have any questions, and I did want to thank the administration for responding to that $50,000 withdrawal of funds by the city by increasing that $50,000, stepping up, and then this is just an ask on top of that. And I just wanted to clarify that for the listening audience. So thank you so much for those comments, administration.
Anyone else have a question? See no hands up. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve amendment number 20, and that is relative to the funding for the MPS Drives program with the modifications as recommended by the administration to use vacancy adjustment in schools operations to fund the amendment. On the motion as read into the record, Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That's 9 ayes. The motion passes. And I am so sorry. I forgot that Director Leonard had the gavel. Will you be returning that at this point?
No, because Director O'Halloran has another amendment up, which I believe
So
is one of the
noted.
next item.
So noted. Okay. The next item before the body would be amendment number 21 by Director O'Halloran to increase funding to the Violence Free Zone program partners from the ESSER funds.
Director O'Halloran, would you speak to your amendment, please?
Thank you so much. As stated in the amendment, for over 15 years, our Violence Free Zone partners, the Milwaukee Christian Center and Running Rebels, have provided strong mentorship to students in MPS. I included some data points from 2017, 2018 through 2019, 2020. 64 Violence Free Zone staffs in 12 schools mentored 3,737 students on a direct caseload basis. They served a total of 13,400 238 students through interventions, referral, and other programming, and facilitated 12,316 mediations. And to fully fund year-round mentorship programming would require $256,000 a year per school. The current reimbursement rate is $170,000 per school. I want to note that this funding has been flat for years. To fill this gap, our partners have reduced service. I believe at one point they had 8 youth mentors per school, and that's been reduced to 5 youth mentors per school. And they are forced to limit the engagement to school year. And at this time, I think it's really important that we engage in year-round mentorship with our students, and they are also forced to seek outside funding for our students. So this increase would reduce our partners' administrative burden of resource development, so they wouldn't have to fundraise on our behalf. It would also allow them to start their youth mentors at a minimum of $15 an hour. One of them does, and the other is not able to at this time. And it would allow them to expand and plan for limited mentorship programming through the summer months, which is really critical. So for reference, I just included that the most recent RFP, the request for proposal request from VFC, so many acronyms, was to increase from $170,000 per school to $185,000 per school. This amendment would meet that initial request and increase an additional $15,000 per school. I recognize that ESSER funding, as I have requested, is a limited time opportunity, but this would act as a bridge to sustainability through other means, as has been requested by LIT and other partners and other students, reduction of security staffing, TABS programming if we are able to, or other general operating funds. And I did want to include that the 12 schools, in case people aren't aware, they are in Bayview High School, Pulaski, Madison, Tech, South Division, Roosevelt Middle School of the Arts, Lincoln Middle School of the Arts, Washington, North Division, Obama, and Vincent. And in addition to all the numbers that I provided, I will say anecdotally, speaking with one of my administrators in both of the high schools with whom he has had contact with the violence-free zones, this is a very valuable program, and I think we should honor this request. And so I move approval of the amendment as presented.
So noted.
Administration, do you want to make any comments?
Yes, Vice Chair Leonard and members of the board, regarding Amendment 21 pertaining to the violence-free zone and running rebels, I would ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview of the amendment, as well as provide a recommendation from the administration, and after which we'll be more than happy to entertain any questions that you may have. Martha.
Vice Chair Leonard, I'm finally getting this right, and I'm sorry for all the times I got it wrong tonight. And members of the committee, my name is Martha Kreitzman, Chief Financial Officer. The funding allocated for contracted services and school safety funds provides mentoring for students through the Running Rebels and Milwaukee Christian Center to foster a safe learning environment. The youth advisors build relationships with students and are a positive role model, supporting students with conflict management, attendance, and academics. And we are available to answer any questions.
Director Gandhi.
Vice Chair Leonard, I would just like to thank Chair O'Halloran for this. I was at Bradley Tech High School and I saw the VFC program in action, and it truly is everything that it's wrapped up to be. And I imagine a future in which we would not have to have any school safety and we would just have VFC in all of our schools. And Chair, I wanted to ask Vice Chair Leonard if Chair O'Halloran would have me as a co-sponsor on her amendment.
Oh, Director O'Halloran. Would you want her
Certainly.
on?
Okay. It would be my pleasure.
So noted.
Anyone else have any questions or comments?
I did want to make one other comment. Would like also to note, as has been raised in this meeting tonight, that the VFC mentors have training in mental health first aid and QPR, which is the question, persuade, and refer, which is an educational program designed to teach professional gatekeepers the warning signs of suicide crisis and how to appropriately respond. And so, as we have noted time and time again, that our students are asking for additional mental health supports, that this is another one of the critical, crucial services that they provide to our students. And I believe Director Taylor had also indicated interest in co-sponsoring. So,
Correct.
So, any other questions or comments? All right. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director O'Halloran's motion to approve the amendment as presented, co-sponsored by Directors Gokul and Taylor. On the motion as read into the record to increase funding to the Violence Free Zone program partners from the ESSER funds, Director Carr is temporarily absent. Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
You have the chair. I'm sorry. Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Seamson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
Director O'Halloran.
Aye.
And Chair Leonard.
Aye.
That's 8 ayes, 1 temporarily absent. The motion passes.
I am now giving the gavel back to Chair O'Halloran.
So noted.
Thank you. We're really putting you through the paces tonight.
No problem.
Madam Secretary, what is the next amendment, please?
The next amendment is amendment number 22 by Director Seamson, and it is to provide funding to schools to support 2 after-school extracurricular clubs per high school.
Thank you. Does Director Seamson wish to make comments, please?
I do. Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. So over time, since Act 10, our high schools have lost significant ability to have those extracurricular activities for our children. And, it's been something that's been missing, and we lose a certain number of our students because our families are looking for those extracurricular activities for their children to participate at school. So I see this as a way to kind of keep our students, choosing MPS as their school, because we're giving them lots of options that kind of go above and beyond the school day. Also meeting with members of LIT, one of the things that they talked about was how beneficial it is to have something sort of outside of their classes. And especially this year, some of them talked about that need to have, a way to be engaged, but in a more relaxed kind of fun way at school, that mental health break. So I feel like it's a service that our students would also greatly benefit from. And it just makes school a little bit more fun. So, whether that's finding something in the area of music, arts, the school website, yearbook, just a way to restore that sense of community and belonging to our high schools. So that was the reason that I put this together, and I move recommendation of the amendment.
Thank you, Director Seamson. Does the administration wish to make comment?
Yes, Chair O'Halloran and members of the board, regarding Amendment 22 pertaining to school clubs, I will ask Martha Kreisman to provide an overview, and between Martha and the team and I, we'll be able to answer any questions that you may have. Martha?
Chair O'Halloran, members of the committee, extracurricular clubs provide students a tie to their school community and help them foster relationships and have additional opportunities to learn and grow as a community member. The amendment suggests using funding from ESSER 2, page 4 in the budget detail, which is for direct services for students. The administration proposes using funding from page 7 of the ESSER 2 budget detail set aside for professional development instead.
Thank you, administration. Do committee members wish to make comments or ask questions? I see Vice Chair Leonard's hand.
Just a comment. To me, this is probably one of the most valuable aspects of what MPS offers, besides our bilingual programs and other kinds of curriculum. But here I am after almost 30 years in MPS, but I also remember being able to go to the after-school programs that worked with MPS and with the boys and, well, it wasn't the Boys and Girls Club, it was the Boys Club then. It really did keep us off the streets. It really makes a direct difference in our children's lives out there. If you've ever gone and checked out community-based education in other cities, this is one of the main aspects of their program, that they offer these other extracurricular activities that make such a difference in their lives. So I just like the idea of that, and using professional development funds for it is actually sort of nice too. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Leonard. Director Peterson.
Yes, I'm just curious if the administration could provide to us what high schools have what I'd call full service sort of after school programs, run by the Boys and Girls Club or another organization. I know that I completely support this amendment, but I see it probably as a start, because I know that some high schools in the past have had very robust after-school programs. Some clubs run by teachers, but also in terms of if they're working with a nonprofit like Boys and Girls Club, by members of their staffs. And I was just wondering if we could get a description of what schools have had it, what schools have different kinds of after-school programs.
Administration.
Halloran, members of the board, we will be more than happy to get that information. We do not have that information at our fingertips tonight, but we will be able to get that to you prior to the full board.
Is that acceptable, Director Peterson?
Of course, of course.
All right. Thank you so much. We look forward to that information. Do we have any other comments or questions? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
On Director Simpson's motion for approval of the amendment number 22 to provide funding to schools to support 2 after-school extracurricular clubs per high school. And that is with the modifications to the funding source as outlined by the administration to use ESSER funding listed on page 7 of the budget detail. On the motion is read into the record. Director Garcia.
Aye.
Director Gokul Gandhi.
Aye.
Director Herndon.
Aye.
Director Leonard.
Aye.
Director Peterson.
Aye.
Director Simpson.
Aye.
Director Taylor.
Aye.
And Chair O'Halloran.
Aye.
That is 9 ayes. The motion passes.
Madam Secretary, next amendment, please.
Madam Chair, that would be the last amendment for consideration tonight.
Okay, thank you so much. Do committee members wish to submit any other amendments at this time? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, next item, please.
Madam Chair, that was the last item on tonight's agenda.
Okay, thank you. Before we proceed to adjournment, I do believe Director Taylor would like to make a comment. Director Taylor, would you like to proceed?
Thank you, Chair O'Halloran. And I just wanted to put that out there on live. Today is the 1 year anniversary of George Floyd, a Black man that was killed in Minneapolis. That is half of the reason my voice is gone. I have been working in collaboration with the George Floyd Family Foundation and a lot of area Milwaukee organizations to bring forth the collaboration of change. So I am actually here with the family now. I just want us to take a minute and remember his life. We often talk about people in death, but also remember the great changes that are happening in Milwaukee that sparked over 365 days ago last year. And even though we have great gaps to continue to fight for justice and advocate for those people and communities of colors, that we are making some gains. So once again, thank you, Chairwoman, for allowing me this privilege. And let's remember to keep George Floyd and their family and all of the families across the United States lifted up and in care as they continue to fight for justice for their loved ones and ours as well.
Thank you, Director Taylor, and thank you to committee members for allowing us this point of privilege. Okay, before we adjourn, the chair will remind the board and the public that the board is scheduled to take final action on the proposed FY22 budget at its regular meeting on May 27th, 2021. This meeting is scheduled to begin at 5:30 p.m. and will be held virtually. Although this will be a public meeting, as is customary, no public hearing will be given on the budget. Information about how to access this meeting is found on the MPS Boardcast page of our website. The board will continue to accept written comments on the proposed budget between now and our meeting on May 27th. Comments may be sent to Office of Board Governance, Central Services Building, Room 2273, P.O. Box 2181, Milwaukee, Wisconsin 53201-2181, or emailed to governance@milwaukee.k12.wi.us, or faxed to 414-475-8071. The chair would like to thank all of you who either addressed the board tonight or provided us with written comments. The board appreciates your participation in the budget process. The chair would also like to thank the superintendent and his staff, particularly the staff of the Financial Planning and Budget Services, for their hard work and many long hours devoted to developing a budget that will best serve our students and their families and our staff. And I would also like to add thank you to the Office of Board Governance for keeping us all on track throughout this process. There being no further business before the committee, this meeting is adjourned.
So noted.